What's good YouTube, it's your boy Proxy here again. Let's talk about mashing on MK1. This term is constantly used in the fighting game community with various contexts, usually to describe three distinct situations. The first of these refer to when the opponent is button mashing, pressing random buttons without knowing what they specifically do. These are usually new players that don't know much about the fighting game that they're playing, so they randomly press buttons throwing out random strings and specials. The second context refers to when a player is still in turns by outmashing the other player. This means that they're much quicker at pressing their inputs than said player. This may lead to feeling like it's never your turn in a match. This occurs for various reasons. Firstly, you're too slow with your inputs and your opponent is quicker with theirs simply. You might be reset back to neutral where no player has frame advantage, but because you're slow with your inputs, the opponent takes the turn. Secondly, you don't know what is punishable. This can allow you to not only miss a punish, but also concede your turn. When you don't know when it's your turn, you'll be prone to blocking even after the opponent uses string that is punishable on block. Thirdly, you may also think you're getting outmatched, but you're using a string with high startup frames, whilst the opponent is using a string with low startup frames. In a vacuum, you'll always get beat. You gotta learn frame data, otherwise your opponent will literally be robbing you in the match. Let's talk about the last context this term is usually used in. Mashing buttons when you're not supposed to. You might often see counter come up on the side of your screen when you catch an opponent pressing an input when they're not supposed to. This usually occurs when a player is under pressure from the opposing player where they have no other option but to block, also known as a block string. This string must be fully respected, otherwise the opponent can simply hit confirm and I'll be caught mashing and get punished. Another situation where you can get caught mashing is when the opponent is plus. For example, Raiden's warrior stance, which is 1-2, is +1 on block. Therefore, I'm guaranteed to be able to control my character before my opponent can. So here's an example of an opponent mashing out of my plus frames with his down 1 after blocking warrior stance. Now, if I decide to down 1 him after I'm plus, I counter him. Once we input our down 1 at the same timing, I will always beat him because my down 1 is now essentially 6 frames after he blocks my warrior stance. Likewise, if I use Raiden straight shock, the same result occurs. I just have a more lenient timing because I'm now +3 instead of +1. So my down 1 is now basically 4 frames. Down 1 is often a safer option as you'll duck highs and just receive a down 1 punish. However, if your opponent reads this, you can still eat a full punish. When plus, they have the option to backdash. This makes you whiff your down 1 and you'll eat a full punish. Another situation where someone can be caught mashing is guessing wrong on whether or not the opponent is completing a string or staggering it. You might think an opponent is staggering their string because they've conditioned you to think so because they've been doing it the entire match. You then decide to mash and they input the full string, which will result in you getting a full punish. Now let's say I stagger their string and continue applying pressure. If they choose to disrespect my plus frames and try to input a button, they'll be caught mashing as the options I'm using to apply pressure will always be faster than theirs. Note, however, if I decide to use a string with a long startup, that even with the plus frames is still longer than the opponent's options, I will get beat out by those same options. If you don't understand frame data, you might often find yourself in this situation. The last situation where people are often caught mashing is in a corner get up situation. You're at a disadvantage because you're getting up whilst the opponent has the advantage as they're standing. If you don't utilize the wake up options, namely armored wake up, cameo, invincible wake up, delayed wake up or simply blocking upon wake up, and decide to wake up inputting strings, you'll get caught mashing by the opponent once they don't mistime their Oki. You need to know when to respect your opponent's strings by blocking, when you're back to neutral, and know what is punishable. Otherwise, your opponent will be robbing turns and dominating you because they have more frame knowledge than you. Hope this video was in the least helpful to understanding the concept of mashing. If it was, like the video and subscribe and stay tuned for more content. I'm out. One love.